Okay, so here I'll introduce the project. So this is the latest version of Icon, and within this project, so this is the stakeout demo project here, along with this job of corner points. But if I just look at the data that I've got imported, I've got a CSV file, which is a basic point file of some points that I'll be staking out. That'll be the first thing I'll do. I've also got a DXF file I'll work with later, some control points I've used for an intersection. I've also got a DXF load as a background image as well. I come into the jobs section here. I've got two active jobs. Well, the active job is corner points, and the second job that I'll use later, which is DXF. And I come in here to the devices screen. You can see I'm connected to the Icon robot. This is a Bluetooth connection to an Icon robot. So if we talk about staking with Icon, there's two different application approaches. So one approach is aligned to the sort of engineering and infrastructure approach, and that's Icon Site, and that's here, that's stakeout. And then one is aligned to the building construction approach, or Icon Build, and those are here, they're layout points and layout lines. Now coming into the system option here, and if I come into active licenses, you can see that I've got Icon Site Plus installed here. So if I've got Site Plus installed, I also see Icon Site beneath it here. If I just have the standard Icon Site version, then of course this top line wouldn't be displayed. So Site Plus means I don't just have stakeout here, I've got the layout options as well. So I suppose the main difference between Site and Build approaches to staking out, that in Build it is split between points and lines like this, whereas in Site it is a combined application. But other than that, some differences lie in the content of the toolbox. So if I come into stakeout, for example, here's the toolbox. Just for an example, here in the toolbox I've got a chainage option. Now that's not an option you'll find in the layout version. I mean, for example, in the layout version I can show you, for example, here we've got two tapes, and two tapes that's exclusive to Icon Build. If you're wondering, I can quickly demonstrate that. That's a way of staking out points without actually using a total station. So if you look, I just select two anchor points, for example, points A and B, and then select point C. And if I know the whereabouts of points A and B, then I can locate point C based upon the distances from A and B. So yeah, I suppose the clue's in the title really. You'll need two tapes. You won't need a total station. So this is taken from the equipment list. Now this is a basic overview of the different applications within Icon Build and Icon Site here. So for example, down here you've got layout points, and you can see there's a mention of two-tape layout, which is an exclusive to Icon Build and not Icon Site. For example, here down in stakeout here you've got this option of defining chainage. So they're the two examples that I've shown you, and they're referenced here in this in the equipment list. I think it's page 15 of the equipment list, if I remember correctly. It also references the other applications as well, so sketching, as built, etc. So that's a useful reference if that's something you want a bit more information about. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate today using the stakeout application. So if I come into stakeout, now I'll just quickly zoom out so you can see what's going on here. So you can see here I've got 4 control points here, and I've also got 4 reference points. Now I've already done my resection using this control file. I don't need that anymore, so I'll turn that off in the Map View Manager. So if I come in here and just set control to off, and then back in the screen I'm left with 4 points that I'll stake out. So the first point, I'll tap point A here, and there we go, point A, and press start to begin measurements. So what you can see here is the measured points in the screen. You can see it's displayed in yellow. And the line and offset values are shown, and they're relative to the total station. So there's, you can see there I've got a 2.1 meters and 0.7. They're relative to in and out values relative to the orientation of the total station. So a relevant value here also is this value here. You can see that's the straight line distance to the point. So at the moment that's 2.2 meters. That's represented by this blue line. Now as I move closer to the point, if you look, once that value, that 2.2 meters goes below 2, I'll switch automatically to this 2.5D bullseye view. Okay, so those line and offset values that I spoke about are now displayed in this whole station perspective mode. You can see on the right hand side here. And as I move closer to the point still, this next circle, that represents 50 centimeters. So you can see now, I'm just going to move a bit closer to the point. And as I just reach 50 centimeters, like so, you can see now the scale resets again. And this the blue circle you can see in the center, that's the tolerance itself. So again, if I move closer again, you see that once I'm within that circle, the point color has now changed to green rather than yellow, and that point can be stored, so that's within tolerance. Now if I just press store, now you can see that point stored in green. Store. Okay. So now just to compare, just so you know how the tolerances are working, I'll just come back out, come into units and go to tolerances. This is where I define the tolerance. So you see now the tolerance is set to low, which for TPS stakeout is 100 mil. I'll quickly switch now to mid just for a comparison. So the TPS stakeout tolerance is now 20 mil, and I'll stake a point. Back into stakeout, I'll select point B. So it's the same basis I've got. You can see here the distance to the point is now 2.5 meters. As I move closer to the point, it switches automatically. I'll just start measurement. Now that you can see I'm 1.7 meters away from the point, so I'm automatically into this bullseye mode. As I come closer into the 50 centimeter circle, the scale is going to reset. But now you can see that the tolerance circle is a lot smaller because I've changed my tolerances. So it takes a little bit more work to get to the point. But there you go. You can see so the point's yellow. As I come closer, the point will just become green to show it's within tolerance. And I'll store that point. Okay. I'll switch back the tolerance now. Switch it back to the low level, so the 100 mil, just for speed of demonstration, really. Okay. So back into stakeout. Now what I want to show you is a different way of selecting the point. So now instead of tapping the point in the screen, I'll use the point ID search. So if I tap ID here, this is a way of searching for a point instead of actually tapping it in the screen. There's a number of different ways of searching for points. I can search by point ID or by code or even by elevation. I will search by point ID. I'll come in here and I just want point C. So if I just tap point C and press accept, you can see point C is automatically selected in the screen. So that's a nice easy way of selecting the next point. Now I'll start measurements now, and one difference between point C you'll notice, if I come through the screens here, now this third screen, all these blue icons here mean it's referring always to the reference point, to the point to be staked. And this point is slightly different. Now this point has a height of 0. I've deliberately imported a height of 0. So I want to show you what happens when you stake out a point which actually has a height of 0. So as I move closer to the point, same basis, I'll just get close to the point now. See I'm already within tolerance. Now, because I've got this height of 0, in the second screen you'll see that the cut fill value, or the height offset between the reference point and the measured point, it's over a meter there. But the point here is still shown as green. But if I press store now, it's actually stored in red. Now I'll quickly come back to the to my presentation. This is a screenshot that's taken from the user manual, and you can see that the different point labels that are shown in the screen are shown here. So basically, if you see a tick on the point, that means it's on a 2D basis that it's within tolerance. The colour is always referring to the height difference. So you can see there that point there was within tolerance, but it was out the height. So that when you see that red point like that, it's nothing. I guess it's if you're worried about 2D tolerance, then you're fine. But yeah, I suppose it's a slightly different approach. I'll come back to icon now. I'm going to stake out this point D. I'm going to quickly show you another approach here. So you can see if I'm here, I'm 2.4 meters away again. Now I've got this 2D view that I can use if I want, but I can also come in and use arrow view. So if I tap arrow view now, this is a different approach again. It's like you're kind of immersed within the stakeout rather than seeing it on a plan basis. So you can see the same line and offset values here, 2.4 and 0.5. They're the same that are displayed here as well. And it'll work on the same basis. So I've got 2.4 meters here. Once I come below 2 meters, it'll see the 2.5D bullseye. Now this is toggleable, so I can just come back to this other view if I want to. See the same values here, 2.4 and 0.5. Come back into arrow, again, same basis. So I'll come and stake out this final point on the screen. You can see now that once I came below 2 meters, it automatically switched to this. What I'll do in this case actually is I'll store it just outside, just to let you know how it works if you're storing outside of tolerance for whatever reason. So if I press store now, you can see now the point's yellow. I'm more than 100 mil away from the point. If I press store, you can see I've got this warning message. I can continue to stake, press continue, and then maybe go and find the point properly. Or if for whatever reason I can't reach that point, I can accept anyway. And you can see that that point there is stored with it in yellow, so that's another point there. So it's out of tolerance for position on a 2D basis. Okay. So I don't know if you know or not, but all these stake points are given a code of stakeout within the active job. So that means that there's a controllable layer that can be turned on and off here in the map view manager corner point. So if I can turn off the points that I've staked out there, if I want to reference the data that I was originally working with, I can do that and switch back. So it's kind of a useful thing to know if you want to have a look at your stakeout points or not. You can turn that layer off. Okay, so you can see I've stake points at different tolerance levels with different guidance, different distances from the reference data to display the results, as you can see. So I've also shown the arrow view along with the 2.5D bullseye point guidance. So the arrow view and the 2.5D guidance, they were newly introduced for version 1.5, and that was based on feedback from earlier versions saying that stakeout could be a little bit more straightforward. So the feedback on these features has been universally good, and it's a massive improvement. Ultimately, it allows customers to stake out more points in less time. So, yeah. Now I'll imagine I've done my basic stakeout work, but maybe a few days later there's some more staking to be done in the area. So I'll switch to the second job, which was a DXF of the surrounding area. It also includes some new detail in the area of work. So you can see there's plenty of detail in the DXF. There's a lot more points and lines. I know that I'm only adding detail to the work that I did before, so I can turn that data on again here. So my corner points job, if I turn that to on and just the stakeout to on, now you can see in the screen here, that's the work done in the previous job, but I can still see it. Okay, so let's imagine I've been told I want to stake out these 3 arc points. But if I tap 478, for example, to stake it, you can see I've configured this info panel. The 5th page I've configured to code ref. Now you said it was showing up as arc points. So let's say I only want the arc points displayed and not the rest of the DXF. If I come into the data view manager down here and use the drop down on the DXF, these are all my different layers for the DXF. You can see arc point is displayed here. So if I turn the rest to off and just arc on and come back in, you can see the arc points are displayed, but then you can see the rest of the DXF not displayed. What that's displayed there is the background image of the same DXF. So that's read only. It's a nice reference for perspective, but I don't have my screen, unwanted clutter in the screen if that's how I want to work. So see, these are the points that I want to stake out. It's these 3 here: 478, 479, and 480. So I'll select point 478 to stake out. If I just press start to measure. Okay, so that's my distance to the point. Okay. So what I want to do now is use the split screen version. I'll use multi-view. I haven't mentioned that yet. And there's 3 different ways of orientating the screen. I tend to go for this one over here. And so here I can have a look at get a nice site overview. Maybe here on the left-hand side, sorry, I'll use the arrow view. So you can see you've got a split between sort of a 2D view on the right-hand side and then the arrow view, the immersed view on the left. So I'll just begin to stake that point now. So as I move closer to the point, automatically the arrow view goes into 2.5D. And that's the point staked out. I'll press store there. So next point, I can select it in this screen if I want, or I can select it in either screen really. Now for this point I'll change the orientation reference. So if I move away, move back in, so if I select 479, now what I'll do here is I've got an option here in the orientation config. At the moment all my orientation is based upon the station, so on the left hand side you can see the station and the pole and the line and offset given relative to that. If I come into orientation config, I'll switch to known points. So this is a different orientation. What I'll do here is I'll orientate to a control point. So I'll turn a control file back on and then you'll see how this works. Okay. So if I select point 1, for example, maybe I want to orientate to control that I've already got. Select 479 to stake out. Now you can see that the line and offset values, so it's probably best off in this left hand side. You can see they're clearly relevant to the station here instead. So the straight line distance to the point is the same, of course, but the orientation is given slightly differently. Also, if I switch to arrow view, you'll see now that there's no station here. It's a pole and a known point orientation basis. So then if I come towards the point and stake it out, those line and offset values will be given relative to this station point rather than the, there we go. Okay. And I'll quickly store the final arc point as well. Okay. So I mean, in terms of using the known point, you can use existing data you've already got of Iden, or you can measure something on the fly, as it were, as well. So of course you can use control like Iden, or you can maybe use the corner of a building or a large tree. So for GPS it might be particularly useful, because if you don't have a station reference anyway, then yeah, you can use a local reference instead. So in terms of other options, I won't run through today. So there's GPS, you can orientate to the sun, and also there's orientating to the last states point, which might be useful if you're working in an area where there's no obvious site features. So you can find your next point based upon what you've just done. So yeah, that was staking out points in a number of different ways to select the point, tapping directly or using the point search functionality. Then using the 2.5D bullseye view, the plan orientation or the arrow view, and also the split screen, and also using the different orientation options. So there's quite a lot of flexibility. One further orientation option is shown in the toolbox, and that's the option of staking with reference to a line. That's here. So the in and out values to the point will be given relative to the orientation of a line that you define in the screen. So, but I'll move on now to talk about staking lines very quickly. So yes, you can stake out lines as well, and you can import lines to and tap them to stake, or you can define lines based on points that I've already got. So I'll do that now. Create a third job. I'll just quickly create a job, call it lines. And in the data, I'll activate the CSV file. Okay, so in Stakeout, there's an option called Connect Points. So if I select Connect Points from here, and I'll just use B and D as an example. You can see now that immediately, as soon as I've selected these two lines, the line is defined, and you can see that I'm already staking out this line. I'll switch the multi-view off at this stage and start measurements. So you can see the offset values of the line is displayed in the screen. It's also displayed here at the top, and along with the line value as well. Now if I want to, I can show that in a larger way, like here's one I made earlier. And yeah, so for example, if I want to stake to 40 centimeter intervals, then I can just look at the line value and look at the offset value as well. So that's a 40 centimeter example, you see. So I'm within tolerance. You can see I've got my green points within tolerance. The offset's not too large. And if I press store there, you can see so I can stake out the line directly based upon the line and offset values that I'm looking at. So I can quickly do a couple of those. What I can also do is create points along the line. So if I use divide line here, I can select the line individually, and then down here I can either distribute a number of lines based on a segmented basis or a distance basis. So if I set the interval at 0.4 meters, you can see that, and then press accept, then points are created along the line, and then I can select the points to stake as well. So that's a different way of doing it. So for example, then I can select 0.5, and then I'm staking that point out on the same basis as was previously. It's like a point stake out. So there you go. There's two different ways of staking out lines there. Okay. So there's plenty of flexibility in terms of how you put data out in the field, and of course there's a sketching application as well. Okay. In terms of what I wanted to show you, I mean, that's the majority of it. So if I turn the corner points job on and the site DXF job on, then you can see that you get a nice overview of all the stakeout work that I've done in a relatively short space of time.